Quiet transformations are often the ones that leave the deepest impact. What a hurt female empath does next is rarely what people expect. Most people assume she will keep fighting for the relationship. They believe she will continue explaining herself, continue forgiving mistakes, and continue giving chance after chance because that is what she has always done. After all, female empaths are often known for their patience, their compassion, and their ability to see the good in people even when others cannot. But there comes a point when the weight becomes too heavy. There comes a point when understanding turns into exhaustion, when loyalty turns into disappointment, and when endless giving begins to feel like a one-sided sacrifice. The surprising part is not that she gets hurt. The surprising part is what happens after the hurt settles in. Because when a female empath reaches her limit, the change that follows can be so profound that the people around her struggle to recognize the person she becomes. Many people misunderstand empaths. They see kindness and assume weakness. They see forgiveness and assume endless tolerance. They see patience and assume there are no boundaries. What they fail to understand is that empathy does not remove a person's breaking point. In fact, studies on emotional burnout and compassion fatigue suggest that people who constantly absorb the emotions and problems of others often carry invisible stress for years before it finally catches up with them. A female empath may spend a long time trying to heal relationships, fix misunderstandings, and support people through their struggles. She often notices pain that others overlook. She sees insecurity behind arrogance, fear behind anger, and loneliness behind bad behavior. This ability to understand people deeply is one of her greatest strengths, yet it can also become one of her greatest challenges when it causes her to ignore her own emotional needs. In this video, you will discover what happens after that turning point arrives. You will learn why many female empaths tolerate more than most people, what finally causes them to stop giving endless chances, and how emotional pain can trigger a transformation that completely changes the way they see themselves and others. You will also learn about the silent shifts that happen behind the scenes, the changes that most people never notice until it is too late, and the surprising reason why some of the strongest boundaries are built by the people who were once the most understanding. The final stages of this transformation are often the most unexpected, which is why you will want to stay until the end. Because the woman who once gave endless understanding does not become who people expect. She becomes someone much stronger, much wiser, and far more difficult to take for granted. If you enjoy deep insights into empathy, psychology, human behavior, and personal growth, then you are in the right place. Welcome to the channel. Take a moment to subscribe and join our growing community. And now let's explore what a hurt female empath does next and why it shocks everyone around her. The reason female empaths tolerate more than most people is not because they are weak. It is not because they cannot see what is happening. In many cases, they see far more than everyone else. They notice small changes in behavior. They notice shifts in tone. They notice hidden sadness behind a smile and hidden frustration behind silence. Their minds naturally search for explanations. While other people focus on actions alone, empaths often focus on the emotions behind those actions. When someone becomes distant, rude, selfish, or hurtful, the empath's first reaction is often curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of immediately asking why someone treated her badly, she starts wondering what pain that person might be carrying. She tries to understand the story behind the behavior. She tries to find the wound beneath the anger. She tries to find the fear beneath the control. This ability can be beautiful because it allows her to connect with people on a deeper level. It helps her show compassion when others would walk away. It helps her remain patient when others become frustrated. Yet this same strength can slowly become a trap. Many female empaths spend years giving people the benefit of the doubt. They believe everyone is fighting battles that cannot always be seen. Because of this, they become highly forgiving. One mistake is forgiven, then another, then another. They tell themselves that everyone deserves understanding. They tell themselves that nobody is perfect. They tell themselves that difficult times can cause good people to behave badly. While these beliefs are not wrong, they can become dangerous when understanding begins to replace healthy boundaries. The empath starts excusing behavior that should have consequences. She starts overlooking disrespect because she understands the pain behind it. She starts accepting emotional neglect because she knows the other person is struggling. She starts carrying burdens that were never hers to carry. Slowly, without realizing it, she begins placing other people's emotional needs above her own. Over time, this pattern becomes exhausting. The empath is constantly giving emotional energy away. She listens, she comforts, she supports, she encourages, she helps people process their problems. She becomes the safe place that others run to when life becomes difficult. Yet many people never stop to ask how she is doing. Many never notice the emotional weight she carries every day. Because she appears strong, people assume she can handle more. Because she remains kind, people assume she is not hurting. Because she keeps showing up, people assume she will always be there. The more she gives, the more people expect. The more understanding she becomes, the less understanding she receives. Without realizing it, she enters a cycle where her kindness becomes treated as an obligation rather than a gift. One of the lesser-known realities about empaths is that they often become experts at understanding everyone except themselves. They spend so much time reading the emotions of others that they ignore their own warning signs. They dismiss their exhaustion, they minimize their disappointment. They push aside their frustration, they convince themselves that things will improve if they just remain patient a little longer. They tell themselves that people will eventually appreciate their efforts. They believe their loyalty will be recognized, they believe their sacrifices will matter. But emotional exhaustion does not disappear simply because it is ignored. It continues to grow beneath the surface. Every disappointment leaves a mark. Every broken promise leaves a trace. Every moment of feeling unseen adds another layer of emotional fatigue. The most difficult part is that this process usually happens slowly. There is rarely a single event that causes immediate change. Instead, it is often hundreds of small moments collecting over time. A conversation where her feelings are dismissed, a situation where her support is taken for granted, a promise that is never kept, an apology followed by the same behavior, a moment when she realizes she is putting more effort into a relationship than the other person. Each experience may seem small by itself, yet together they create a growing sense of imbalance. Deep down, she begins feeling that something is wrong. She begins noticing that she is always the one adjusting, always the one understanding, always the one giving more than she receives. As the months or years pass, a quiet conflict develops inside her. One part of her still wants to believe the best in people. One part still hopes things will change. One part still remembers the good moments and the potential she sees in others. But another part is becoming tired. Another part is starting to question why she keeps accepting situations that drain her. Another part is beginning to realize that compassion cannot fix people who do not want to change. This internal conflict grows stronger with time. The empath finds herself caught between understanding others and protecting herself. Eventually, a moment arrives that changes everything. Surprisingly, this moment is often not dramatic. There may be no screaming, no major confrontation, no shocking betrayal. Sometimes it happens during an ordinary day. Sometimes it happens during a simple conversation. Sometimes it happens in complete silence. What changes is not the situation around her. What changes is her perspective. For the first time, she stops focusing on who the other person could become and starts focusing on who they are right now. She stops looking at promises and starts looking at patterns. She stops listening only to words and begins paying attention to actions. This shift may seem small from the outside, but internally it feels enormous. In that moment, she begins recognizing truths she avoided for a long time. She realizes that her kindness has not created the change she hoped for. She realizes that her loyalty has become expected rather than appreciated. She realizes that some people enjoy receiving support without ever offering it in return. She realizes that understanding someone does not automatically make them healthy, honest, or capable of giving back. This realization can be painful because it forces her to confront reality instead of potential. It forces her to accept that some people benefit from her empathy while making very little effort to value it. Many empaths describe this stage as emotionally confusing because they still care deeply. Their feelings do not disappear overnight. Their compassion does not vanish. Their desire to help remains. Yet something important begins changing. The hope that once kept them invested starts fading. They become less focused on fixing problems and more focused on understanding why they accepted those problems for so long. They begin asking different questions. Instead of asking what happened to the other person, they start asking what happened to them. Instead of wondering how they can save the relationship, they begin wondering why they ignored their own needs. This change in perspective marks the beginning of a transformation that many people never see coming. The people around her often continue behaving the same way because they assume she will continue being the same person she has always been. They expect her patience, they expect her understanding, they expect her availability, they expect another chance. What they fail to notice is that internally she is changing. Quietly, gradually, thoughtfully. She is beginning to see patterns that she once overlooked. She is beginning to recognize emotional habits that no longer serve her. She is beginning to understand that kindness without boundaries often attracts people who are comfortable taking more than they give. Every realization pushes her a little closer toward a version of herself that values peace as much as compassion. So what does a hurt female empath do next? She remembers who she was before she spent years carrying emotional burdens that were never hers to carry. She remembers that her value was never supposed to depend on how much she sacrificed for others. She remembers that kindness does not require self-abandonment, and that compassion should never come at the cost of her own peace. She stops shrinking herself to make other people comfortable. She stops chasing people who keep walking away. She stops explaining her worth to those who were determined not to see it. And perhaps most importantly, she stops begging for the love, respect, and appreciation that should have been given freely from the beginning. Instead, she turns her energy inward. She rebuilds, she heals, she grows. And little by little, she creates a life that no longer depends on someone else's approval, attention, or validation. That is the part that shocks everyone. Not anger, not revenge, not bitterness. Transformation, because the people who once underestimated her often expected her to remain the same forever. They expected endless patience, endless understanding, endless chances. What they never expected was the moment she finally chose herself. And when she does, everything changes. The woman they thought would always stay suddenly walks away from what no longer serves her. The woman they thought would always tolerate more finally discovers the power of her boundaries. The woman they thought was fragile reveals a strength that had been quietly growing all along. If this message resonated with you, know that you are not alone. Many empaths experience this silent transformation, and many are still learning that protecting their peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever reached a point where you stopped giving endless chances and started choosing yourself? Your story may help someone else who is going through the same journey right now. And if you enjoy deep discussions about empathy, psychology, human behavior, emotional intelligence, and personal growth, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Also, if you found value in this message, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who might be struggling silently and waiting for a reminder that their kindness should never cost them their self-respect. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and remember this: the strongest transformations are rarely the loudest. They happen quietly, they happen slowly, and by the time the world notices, the empath has already become someone stronger than anyone ever expected.